सदों माननीय सभापति जी,
माननीय सदस्यगण, नियम 377 के अधीन मामलों को सभा पटल पर रखा जाएगा। जिन सदस्यों को नियम 377 के अधीन मामलों को आज उठाने की अनुमति दी गई है और जो उन्हें सभा पटल पर रखने के इच्छुक हैं, वे 20 मिनट के भीतर मामले का पाठ व्यक्तिगत रूप से सभा पटल पर भेज दें। आइटम नंबर 24, ऊर्जा संरक्षण संशोधन विधेयक 2022, श्री अधीर रंजन चौधरी जी।
वो मिनिस्टर भी आ रहे हैं। मिनिस्टर राज्य मंत्री हैं हमारे कृष्णपाल।
ओके
कृष्णपाल
अधीरदा है, मिनिस्टर इज देयर। ओके अधीरदा, प्रारंभ करें आप प्लीज।
सर yes.
ओके ओके
Sir, in the inception, I must extend my affirmative nod to the tone and tenor of this legislative document, titled under the Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022. Already in response to
Honorable
our...
Minister is in the house now.
Most welcome. Warmly welcome. You are talking about you. Sir, as we know that now carbon is going to be an article of commodification. So it's a new phenomena we are witnessing across the globe. शुरू में तो मैं वो 38 देशों की सराहना करना चाहते हैं जो 1997 में कियोटो प्रोटोकॉल में हिस्सा लिया था और उसी समय ये कार्बन ट्रेडिंग की बात शुरू हुई थी। ये जेनेसिस ऑफ दिस कार्बन ट्रेडिंग is allied to the Kyoto Protocol signed in 1997. Thereafter, a couple of years have been elapsed without having any tangible impact on this protocol, but later in the year 2015, Paris Agreement had also come into existence. That means, over the decades across the globe, the issue of carbon trading has been going on. So we cannot afford ourselves to be left out of this international endeavor on carbon trading. To that end, the bill proposes to amend the Energy Conservation Act 2001, which was last amended in the year 2020. The bill seeks to provide a regulatory framework for carbon trading in India to encourage penetration of renewables in energy mix and effective implementation and enforcement of the Energy Conservation Act. Sir, as we know that India has already committed to reduce the carbon intensity of our GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030 from its 2005 levels and to achieve over 40% of its power generation from non-fossil fuel energy resources by 2030 as part of its national determined contributions under the Paris Climate Agreement. What is the present status of the compliance of our agreement? What is the share of our renewable energy in the entire spectrum of energy mix. These are the very relevant issues that needs to be highlighted also. Sir, I shall focus my deliberation on the issue pertaining to the legislative document itself. First of all, a new section 14AA has been inserted, which empowered the central government or any agency authorized by it to issue carbon credit certificate to the registered entity which complies with the requirements of the carbon credit trading scheme. सर मैं थोड़ा 2-3 मिनट पहले बोल दीजिएगा रुकने का समय, अचानक मत बोला करो. I firmly on the view that the right should also be provided. So the right should also be provided to state government as per our federal spirit of the Constitution. Every day here inside the House, we are debating on the cooperative federalism, etc., etc., because a concern has been generating across the nation that by one way or the other, the cooperative federalism is being eroded, is being diluted. So here also, I would like to emphasize that the right should also be provided to state government as per our federal spirit of the Constitution. State government play a very crucial role in promoting the usage of renewable energy, and they duly deserve this right to issue carbon credit certificates. The second point that I would like to highlight that Section 26 of the Energy Conservation Act 2001. The original act says that no person shall be liable to pay penalty within 5 years from the date. However, the substituted relevant section in this bill has no such clause. My another cause of concern is that all these bills seek to bring large residential building within the fold of energy conservation regime. How the relevant penalties will affect the common man? How will they be able to cope with in complying with these provisions of compliance and penalties? I would like that Honorable Minister may provide a distinct clarification on this issue, because it is also a new phenomena to this sector. Also, I would like to draw the attention of the Honorable Minister that the initial capital investment in constructing green building is very much expensive. Additional cost of building on energy efficient home is 5 to 15%, and the payback period is usually between 3 to 5 years. The cost of renewable energy generally varies between 150 to 250 per kilowatt capacity. How the required standards be met? Who will determine the same? आपका ये कोई स्पेशलिस्ट है? ये स्किल हमारा देश में है? आपके पास रेयर अर्थ मटेरियल भी नहीं है, मिनरल भी नहीं है. आप देखे हैं कि हमारे देश के साथ जब दुनिया में मिनरल अलायंस हुआ कुछ दिन पहले, वो मिनरल अलायंस में हिंदुस्तान को बाहर रखा गया. निकेल, कोबाल्ट, लिथियम और इसके साथ साथ और 17 रेयर अर्थ जो मिनरल्स है, उसमें चीन की डोमिनेंस काफी ज्यादा है. अमेरिका, यूरोप उनसे बचने के लिए कोशिश करते हैं, इसलिए वो लोग मिनरल अलायंस बनाए, लेकिन हिंदुस्तान को नहीं रखा. तो आप जिस मकसद पे जाना चाहते हैं, उस मकसद के जाने के लिए आपके पास रिसोर्सेस क्या है? आपके पास ये मिनरल टेक्नोलॉजी की क्या हैसियत है आपके पास? हम टारगेट तो बनाते हैं, लेकिन टारगेट बनाने के लिए हमें जो संसाधन चाहिए वो हमारे पास नहीं है. तो इसलिए इस मुद्दे को थोड़ा ध्यान से देखना चाहिए. सर, दूसरी बात यह कि after section 2 clause D of the original act, the bill adds 2 definitions relating to carbon credit certificate and carbon credit trading scheme to the list. It rationalizes the definition of energy in clause H of the same section by amending it to include fossil fuel, non-fossil fuel, as well as renewable sources of energy. The purpose of the bill has been stated as bringing in a framework for the carbon credit trading scheme. However, the definition as stated in the bill simply mentions that it shall mean scheme meant for carbon emission, as notified by the central government. There should be more clarity as to the details of the carbon credit scheme, its structure, implementation, or any inkling of its framework. It gives the government unbridled powers to decide on the modalities as well as details. सर, ये बात रखे गए ब्यूरो ऑफ एनर्जी एफिशिएंसी, इनमें मेंबर्स की संख्या भी बढ़ाया गया 20 से 31 तक। मैं शुरू में मंत्री जी को यह कहना चाहते हैं, देयर इज ए प्रोवर्ब इन आवर कंट्री दैट टू मेनी कुक्स स्पॉइल द ब्रॉथ। While on the face of it, this may seem innocuous, but it may create problem because adding several departmental secretaries onto the governing council, there is an increased chance of red tape and slow implementation of tax. सर, इसके बाद मैं ये कहना चाहते हैं कि 25th report of Parliamentary Standing Committee on Energy, which has stated that Bureau of Energy Efficiency has been lagging with respect to financial performance. Given the massive volume of savings that can accrue from energy efficiency in terms of money as well as CO2 emission, the committee noted that the underutilization of funds by the Bureau is unacceptable and called for reforms to ensure full utilization of allocated funds in order to achieve energy efficiency target. तो इसे ब्यूरो ऑफ एनर्जी एफिशिएंसी इस जो ढांचा है, इस ढांचा को और थोड़ा विस्तार से हमें बताइए। सर, अमेंडमेंट में और एक न्यू एडिशन जोड़ा गया 13A आफ्टर सेक्शन 13 of the Principal Act. The clause relates to prohibiting any person from using any name that even nearly resembles the name of bureau or likely to deceive the public. Resembling the name of bureau. It also bars any registering authority from registering any company, firm, or other body of persons with a mark name resembling that of the bureau. However, this section sheds no light on what is to be construed as nearly resembling the name of the bureau as such. It provides a wide leeway to the authority from preventing and registering any company, even with legitimate interest. This is opposed to a general concept of ease of business approach and even ease of living, and will give rise to nightmare of red tape for the common people. ये ताजुब की बात है, रिजेंबलिंग होने से मतलब किसी ना किसी तरीके से आप ये फैसला कैसे करेंगे कि ये रिजेंबल करते हैं या नहीं। ये दो तीन मुद्दे सर मैं रखना चाहते हैं, और इस बार मैं दूसरे एक मुद्दे पे आते हैं सर, वो ये कि सर दी issuance of carbon credit certificates would be on a voluntary basis, and the success of the scheme would require an enterprising approach from private players in the economy to participate voluntarily in the carbon market. Purchasing from a carbon neutral company aligns with the goals of the Paris Agreement. However, while a carbon neutral company may have deployed energy efficient sources to develop its product commodity, there is no certainty that they also source their raw material from a carbon neutral company as well. In the absence of a governance body, private entities often form non-governmental organizations and tend to determine the standards of the community. This could lead to distrust of the quality of carbon credits, while the bill proposed to provide certification to concerned entities through the government, mind it does not provide for determining the quality of the commodity. Sir, in the bill there is a provision for state designated agency. The standing committee has found that most state designated agencies do not have the required dedicated physical and financial resources in order to carry out their functions and work toward energy conservation goals. Standalone state designated agencies tend to perform better in comparison to those which are clubbed with multiple entities. Thus, the Standing Committee recommended the Centre to support states in the creation of stand-alone SDA. सर, सब हम जानते हैं कि 2021 से लेकर हमारा जो सोलर प्रोडक्ट, ये सोलर प्रोडक्ट में जीएसटी को बढ़ाया गया 5 से 12% आपको इसमें जीएसटी बढ़ा दिया आपने. It is projected that this GST hike could result in increased production cost, which will in turn result in increased tariffs for consumers of clean energy. तो आपने हमारा देश में एक रॉ मटेरियल मतलब मिनरल की कमी है, रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट की कमी है, इंस्टीट्यूशनल डिफिशियंसी है, फिर हम बड़े बड़े दावे हम करते जा रहे हैं. ये देखिए, subsidies for the renewable energy sector have reduced by massive 59% since financial year 2017. Subsidies seem to have remained focused on electric vehicles, for which subsidies grew by 205%. सारे पैसा सिंह साहब से गडकरी साहब ले रहे हैं. आप कहां रहोगे? आप कहां रहोगे? Enhancing subsidies in the renewable energy sector will be more beneficial to the economy, particularly in the short term as compared to increasing fossil fuel tax. हमारे हिंदुस्तान में 7 महारत्न है पीएसयू. ये 7 महारत्न यहाँ ज्यादा निवेश नहीं करते. India 7 Maharatna PSU, those which have the potential to become multinational companies, invested up to 11 times more in fossil fuel projects than in renewable energy in financial year 2021. PSU should be required to diversify into clean energy and formulate plans for phasing down investment in fossil fuel. तो इसलिए इंसेंटिवाइज करना चाहिए, ये प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट को और बढ़ावा देना चाहिए. Even among public finance institutions, annual disbursement towards fossil fuel was 3 times more than towards renewable energy in financial year 2021. Clean energy targets of such lending institutions should therefore be enhanced, and they should also formulate plans for phasing down lending to fossil fuel projects. There is also a need for data transparency of the government and its entities with respect to reporting on clean energy. This will ensure that the government remains accountable as well as will help to implement evidence-based policies on clean energy. Clean energy में क्या investment है बताइए? In 2022, the Institute of Energy Economics and Financial Analysis published a report in which it estimated that India's current levels of investment in the renewable energy sector needs to be doubled to around $30 to $40 billion per year if it intends to meet its target of 450 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by 2030. आपने तो टारगेट रख दिया है. आपने 175 जो टारगेट रखा था गीगावाट की, उसका क्या सोलर 100 गीगावाट सोलर क्या हाल हुई आपको खुद पता है. 2020 अभी निकल जा रहे हैं. 2023 के टोटल 2023 की और हम बढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन आपका टारगेट पीछे पड़ गए हैं. आप कहेंगे कि कोविड थे, ये थे, वो थे. बहाना बनाने में आपका कोई जोड़ीगा तो नहीं है दुनिया में. सर मैं बताता हूं, द गवर्नमेंट हैज फेल्ड टू स्ट्रेंथन इट्स कैपेसिटी फॉर डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन ऑफ सोलर पैनल. मंत्री खुद स्वीकार करेंगे ये. With around 80% of panels being imported from China, experts have stated that more than 30 indigenous farms should already exist by now, but instead the industry has been plagued by the lack of coherent policy framework, inadequate funding, import of cheap panels from China, and issues with energy storage and other infrastructure. An independent report from 2020 also found that in addition to the solar manufacturing capacity, the production of raw material such as cells and polysilicon are also lagging. अब कहां जाओगे? ये महीने कहते चीन हमारे साथ कितने आगे बढ़ चुके हैं कि उनके पास सारे संसाधन है. कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड सोलर पावर, उसमें आप पीछे रहेंगे. अब बताइए, कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड सोलर पावर, हिंदुस्तान में कुदरत के चलते हमारे सोलर एनर्जी की कोई कमी नहीं है, फिर भी कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड सोलर पावर में हम पीछे रह गए. अब खुद इसको जरूर मानेंगे. सर हो गया. सर मैं ये मोदी जी तो पंचतंत्र पंचामृत की बात करते, चारों तरफ हम अमृत की ध्वनि गूंजते हैं अभी हिंदुस्तान में. अमृत काल, पंच अमृत वगैरह वगैरह. हम चाहते हैं कि अगर हमारे चीजों की दामों में, अगर अमृत की चीजों की दामों में अगर अमृत की कुछ बरसात हो जाए तो हिंदुस्तान के लोग बच जाएगी. हर जगह अमृत होते हैं, आम लोगों की रोजमर्रा की चीज में सारे गरल गिरते हैं. फर्क ये है, एक तरफ अमृत, चारों तरफ गरल. कहां जाए हम लोग? हम सरल आदमी हैं, महंगाई पे गरल डालते हो. अब मोदी मतलब मुमकिन है, आप कहते हो मोदी है तो मुमकिन है, मैं कहता हूं मोदी है तो महंगाई है, हम कहते हैं मोदी है तो गरल है. अमृत नहीं है.
विषयांतर कर दिया आपने.
हो गया
अधीर दा, विषयांतर कर दिया. चलिए.
हाँ सर, हो गया
जी,
हो गया सर. सर ये कहते हैं कि एज ऑफ अप्रैल 2022 इंडिया इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी फॉर पावर फ्रॉम renewable sources stand at 111.39 gigawatt, despite a previous target of achieving 175 gigawatt by 2022. Thus, the Prime Minister's commitment of 500 gigawatt by 2030 seems tokenism. Reports have pointed out that there is a mere rehashing of India's existing commitment to achieve 450 gigawatt capacity by 2030. सर मैं हो गया सर. मैं एकदम अंतिम में पहुंच गया. दो मुद्दे सर. नहीं मैं ये मंत्री की ध्यान आकर्षण करने के लिए दो मुद्दे रखना चाहते हैं. देखिए, मेरा बात नहीं, एक्सपर्ट्स की क्या कहना है ये आपको थोड़ा जिक्र करना चाहिए. एक्सपर्ट्स की, मेनी साइंटिस्ट, इकोनॉमिस्ट एंड एनजीओ बिलीव that the carbon trading is a dangerous distraction from the need to end fossil fuel use and move to a low carbon future. We do not have time to wait for a high price on carbon. We must shift to a low carbon energy, agriculture, transport and industrial world now. The best way to do this is through direct regulation. ये मेरा नहीं, एक्सपर्ट की मानना है. There are many downfalls to the carbon trading system. It has become a source of windfall profits for polluters through its failed mechanism, offshore carbon offsets, and it has in fact led to emission not being reduced but only regulated in a manner which ensures profits for the polluters with very little payoff to the environment. ये मैं आपको बस हो गया सर. लास्ट मतलब लास्ट. सर the principle of carbon market. सर मंत्री देखिए ध्यान से सुनते हैं, उनका जानकारी अच्छा लगता है. हाँ. प्रिंसिपल ऑफ कार्बन मार्केट्स वर एस्टेब्लिश्ड इन द ईयर 1997 Kyoto Protocol, but to date there have been few, if any, measurable reduction in greenhouse gas. Measurable reduction देखा है, कोई सबूत है इसका? Madam, greenhouse emission that can be attributed to this measure. The two most important carbon markets so far, the European Union emissions trading system and the United Nations carbon offsetting scheme, clean development mechanism are failures. Yet, new carbon markets based on these schemes are being planned in both developed and developing nations. मैं ये कंसर्न जताता हूँ, इसका मतलब ये नहीं मैं बिल की विरोध करता हूँ, नहीं, मैं एक्सपर्ट की बस हो गया सर हो गया सर जी. The second reason that carbon markets have been infested by corruption and non-transparency. When starting one project in India, research team realized that the Mumbai office of a major international consultancy appeared to have copied and pasted large chunks of documentation from one CDM project to another. In fact, carbon markets have created a lot of income for consultants, carbon brokers, and project developers, not to mention the validators, policymakers, NGO professionals, and academics who have made a living from this market. This is very little independent and democratic oversight in the system. Instead, there are many revolving doors between the business, policy, NGO, and university world, fueling acquisition of corruption.
Thank you,
Sir, हो गया? सर, आज नोबेल लॉरिएट रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर की तिरोधान दिवस है। ये कुदरत को मानते हुए उन्होंने ये एक समय कहा था कि trees are the earth's endless effort to speak to the heaven. तो पेड़ बचाओ, पौधे बचाओ, कुदरत की बचाओ, हम रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी।
गुरुदेव की पंक्तियों से आपने पूर्ण किया। श्री GS पौन जी।